Hey, what is going on YouTube? Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, and guys, we finally got our hands on Brest. No, I'm just kidding. I hope you guys can hear my wheeze. And I apologize for the audio yesterday. I don't know what happened. It sounded pretty decent on the editor here, and then it transferred over to YouTube, and it sounded like I was recording in a toaster. But hopefully this one is better. But guys, we have our first look at Brest. How many Brest jokes do you think I can fit into this video? I'll try to leave a counter up on the top. But just like my first time looking at Brest, I was amazed at first until I found out what is behind them. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I'm gonna have fun with this video and my awful puns. But regardless, this line of ships is actually pretty fun, but unfortunately, I don't think they are that good. They have a long reload. The accuracy is pretty lacking, as you guys will find out very shortly here. Now, they do have good concealment and, of course, the engine boost, which you can get yourself into unique positions. You are definitely going to want to try and get out on the flank, such as we are doing in this game. But speaking of the accuracy, look at that shot. Oh, it's all over the place, and we actually end up splashing between a cruiser there. Now, of course, that shot was at around 16.8 kilometers, and for this particular game we were running beyond range, which I actually switched to igniter, or the other fire perk there, because despite these ships being French, they really don't have the best fire chance. Now, RNG definitely went my way this game. We had a pretty good team as well, and these ships definitely excel when you can get a flank, and that is exactly what we're doing here. But a few of you have seen me play these ships on stream, and they're just really truthfully lackluster in my opinion. But part of the fun that I am having in the game now is just playing ships that are not necessarily the best. Everyone knows we can take out a Mines or a Des Moines or something super strong and go out and dominate the enemy. And again, some days I do want to do that, but doing that time and time again just becomes monotonous and boring to me. So certain days I do want to take out these ships, which are probably less, than ideal in most circumstances. Now, that being said, it can definitely lead to some frustration as well, because you are taking up a cruiser spot. And if, in a competitive game, I definitely would not want a teammate or myself taking out this ship in trade of a potential radar cruiser or DPM cruiser that are very vital to the team in most circumstances. But just pay attention to a few of the salvos. Like I said, we do get some RNG to fall our way, and we are definitely attracting a lot of damage. And despite these ships being French, you don't really want to put them in this kiting position. Your armor is actually more favored towards the front. Now, you do have a massive 25mm nose, which can be overmatched, so you want to make sure that you angle. And this position is better than, flat broadside. Obviously, we are still angling our armor, but they actually just do a little bit better because of the kiting angles here. You can kind of see we are on the edge of opening up that angle, with the guns both being placed in the front location there. Now, one of the benefits, I guess, of having a rather long reload is the fact that you will actually go concealed around 20 seconds, which is right under the time of your reload here. I believe our reload is 23 seconds, even with a few buffs to that reload. So you kind of think about your position right before your next shot. You can reposition, you can get around, and with Go All Out in the specific build we are running on top of concealment module and a few other concealment perks and the overall good concealment of these of this line, you can get yourself into some nifty spots. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that, and my counter argument is that may work 1 out of 10 games. Some people can get in behind the enemy or something like that, and we have done that in a few games. However, in the other 9 games, you're probably not going to have the same luck, which is why when people give me like a very unique build or a very unique play style, I don't try to put that down, but I just try to be realistic with people, right? And that's why when people say, oh, well, I abandoned my flank because I had a Kraken this time, on the south side of Atlantic. And it's like, okay, that was a very specific scenario. I'm talking about this ship as a whole, right? The best trait of a ship to me is adaptability. And while this ship does have concealment and health, it doesn't really have much adaptability or versatility in terms of its guns. And honestly, I know that some people really enjoy the concealment and the different and unique builds, and I'm going to be quite honest, I kind of enjoyed it here because we're 11 point 7 kilometers from that Bismarck, and we still have like 2 kilometers worth of concealment. And with Go All Out active, I think we can get it down to 8.9. So you can definitely set up some ambushes, but again, it's not going to work in the standard Legends game because Legends is very standoffish. You will get, ships like that Bismarck there who rush in pretty aggressively, and you can get their flank, etc. And you can lead the charge, of course, but just with the average player, kind of, most players tend to sit back. But getting into the guns there, we do actually get a nice hit on that mines. And if you can keep these guns cycling, eventually we have gotten some fantastic salvos, but I just feel like you have to roll those double snake eyes or the double sixes, whatever you want to, I forget which one, definitely double sixes, right? Yeah, you have to roll those double sixes, and if you guys play dice, rolling double sixes is very rare. Now, of course, you can surprise some players because these ships, as you guys have noticed, do have a reload booster. So if you get into that position and into that flank on an enemy's broadside at, medium ranges there with your concealment, you pop that reload booster, you get some RNG. We have yeeted some battleships. Now, again, it's the times that it has happened are fewer than the times it has not, but, having those reload boosters is definitely a plus. Now, here's actually a position that I think the ship is pretty decent in. Now, of course, we're not going to be getting that much, as you see, that was just the worst accuracy you could have. But again, on a follow-up shot, which is aided by our reload booster, we actually get a lot of shells to connect. Now, of course, like we mentioned, we don't really have the fire chance. So if you want to add a few things into your fire chance just to make these ships viable, I definitely think that is, more of the smart thing to do than having range. Now, to be quite honest, despite the French medium cruisers like the Henri, the St. Louis, and the Charles Martel being, more of the HE spammers, this ship is definitely focused around the AP. You could definitely, make an argument for building into the AP, but I think that the guns are strong enough. And honestly, with just how Legends armor scheme and the way overpens work in Legends, I think they're too strong. They are 330 millimeter guns, which works out to about 12.9 inches to all my Freedom unit users out there. So of course they are going to have a lot of pen, and like I said, I believe that just leads to a few overpens, especially on light cruisers. So spiking into the AP pen, while viable, I don't think is truly necessary. If you combine, I think sometimes in certain situations you want to make the weaknesses of a ship stronger, and in certain ships you want to strengthen their strengths. Now, I know that's a little contradicting, but for this specific example, I want to strengthen the HE on this ship, as well as the reload, but also spec a little bit into the concealment, and of course the unique French trait of Go All Out, which we actually just activated on our engine boost consumable there, and you can now see that our concealment is down to 8.9, which is pretty nutty. We are almost bordering on destroyer concealment. Now, of course, destroyers in this game can get down to about 5 kilometers, so not quite destroyer concealment, but pretty crazy for a cruiser with such large caliber guns. And because a lot of players tend to focus on one class and don't really like expanding or learning about the game, that is going to surprise a lot of the, battleship mains. And that used to be me, right? But learning about all other classes of games is going to make you a better player. Here, this is a good example. This Flandre, we went in concealment, but we popped around this island at 9.5 kilometers. His guns were turning because there was another target there, and we actually get the elimination. So definitely playing into your advantages is going to help the lack of reload and accuracy. But again, I just don't think, I'm trying to be, have an open mind about these ships and be a little optimistic, but this was my best game by far, or one of them, as we actually get another beautiful salvo there on that mines. And that was, besides a very close range salvo on an Italian battleship, which netted us, I think, 3 citadels, or 4 maybe on our other video. That was probably one of my best salvos, as we get a follow-up salvo, which nearly completely misses. But because of our positioning and our ability with concealment out here on the flank, we've actually ticked ourselves 100,000 damage, which again is my marker for a decent game. Now, some people take that the wrong way. That's definitely not something you should use on average, especially if you're just starting out, or especially if you play destroyers. But getting around 1.5 to 2 times your health in terms of damage, it's just, if you do the math, if everyone did that on your team, you would win automatically, right? If everyone on our team does twice their amount of health while still maintaining their health, it's an automatic win. you know, when people throw away their ship without doing anything, that is sometimes what truly frustrates me. It's like, if you're going to trade 100,000 health in your Yamato, you have to be doing something for our team. That is a massive, you know, slot of health that you have just, you know, thrown away. Which is why our game yesterday was a little... It's just astonishing how, you know, 2 players can do 80% of the team's damage and we still end up losing. But if you didn't see that video, make sure you guys check it out as we line up another beautiful shot on this Piotr Bagration here. We kind of get the yeet. We have, you know, secured 3 pretty low health kills here. But at this point of the game, I was like, all right, we have gotten to a position, we've got shot at a few times, we've angled, we are really doing well. And then I kind of looked up and there was only 2 ships left. Now, of course, that was a near, you know, half health or 3/4 health Kansas there. So we definitely were thinking about, you know, getting the high caliber. And you just look at the accuracy, man. 1 hit there. Now, of course, a few of them hit the island, but it's just like the ship gives you just enough to love it. It's like a redheaded stepchild. It's a very common analogy in this game. It's like it gives you just enough to love it for a moment, and then all of a sudden you get that follow-up salvo. And I'm going to be honest, these salvos right here with 330 millimeter guns, that was a decent one, but they should be more. I guess I'm expecting... Imagine that I was playing another Tier 8 cruiser. The Petro, the Buffalo, the Salem, the Rune, any other Tier 8 cruiser, the Ibuki, would be absolutely mauling this Kansas in this position. Now, of course, the Kansas is actually getting mauled as we speak by the rest of our team, but the three salvos at a broadside Kansas would definitely net me more than, what, 20,000 damage, which we got. We were at 106. I think we're at 125. Now, again, it's RNG dependent. You know, certain people might be getting citadels in that situation. The Kansas has a rather close to the water citadel. So I'm just, you know, kind of thinking out loud there. But if I was in my Buffalo with a 7-second reload, or even better, a Salem, or the Rune, or the Petro, even with the Petro, I just feel like we're getting some better RNG. But that is, like I said, the lure of playing these ships as we get some fan mail from another cruiser. But alas, this game is coming to a close. As you guys can pretty evidently see here on screen, there's only 1 light cruiser left. I think it's a Harbin, I believe. He actually connects a few torpedoes, but the final engagement here was just we had a good game, but we just get completely trolled at the end here. He pops up broadside, as you guys will see here in a moment, and there are those torpedoes we were talking about. We catch him broadside. Not only was the salvo just insanely, you know, not accurate, but we get 3 overpens. Now, of course, some of those could have hit high and missed his citadel, but when I hate when you kind of... We didn't necessarily outplay him, but we caught him broadside, we get a well-aimed shot off, and RNG just says nope. So it's just one of those situations. Again, he's slightly angled 4 overpens as he connects more torpedoes. So I think we got a little extra attracted damage there at the end of the game. Now, this might have been too much angle, but if you actually watch and pay attention to the salvo, that lands right at the mid-belt there for 1 penetration and 1 overpen. So completely trolled by RNG, but you can see he is getting absolutely pounded by our team. And to be quite honest, we actually just missed out on 2 kills there at the end of the game on both that Kansas and the Harbin. So a close Kraken, but a good game nonetheless, you know, highlighting and showing all these strengths and weaknesses of this ship. To be quite honest, the strengths lie in its concealment and speed, and a little bit in its armor, and the weaknesses are its gun. But a 3rd place finish there, so a pretty good team. Communist Ping You there in the Weimar. He's got a funny name. 2738, so a really good team, actually. If I'm in 3rd place with 2700 XP and 4th place was 22, that was just a really good team. So shout out to the enemy team as well for not completely potatoing, but a pretty, like I said, pretty decent game there. 6 fires, 3 citadels. So hopefully a good first look game for you guys in the Brest there. Man, I do love looking at... Never mind, I'm not going to say that one, but let's go ahead and review the ship's modifications here. It is the pretty standard loadout that I have for most of my ships as we get our bureau stuff off of the screen there. Aiming systems, mod 1, propulsion, concealment, and reload. Now, you could make an argument for turret traverse in mod 1 because the turret traverse is pretty abysmal in this thing, but I definitely think I would go with aiming systems because you get that added dispersion. I can't think of this thing with worse dispersion. But anyway, again, you could probably build these things however you want. I still don't think they're going to be overly effective. They are performing all right, according to Blip, which I just think that those performance metrics are skewed. But let's go ahead and look at the stats here. Survivability, saw it on screen, 55,300 with a decent torpedo protection, which we needed definitely at the end of that game. And here comes the main selling point, or lack of, rather. 2x4 330 millimeter guns with an 18.2 range, which is actually decreased because we switched our build, with a 23.1 reload. Just for reference, I think my John Bart has 380s or 381s with a 22-second reload. So I don't know why Wargaming doesn't want us to have a good tech tree line, other than maybe like the American cruisers, I guess, or certain destroyers. But these ships are not overpowered in any sense, but they're definitely going to be fun. You do also, I guess, have good AA. It's rated an 82 there, although that number doesn't really mean anything. You're really focused on your long-range AA, which is not that great. Maneuverability is average, tight turning circle, kind of a sluggish rudder, but a decent top speed there, and you do have your engine boost. Consumable, and of course when combined with Go All Out, you can actually get that concealment down to a cheeky 8.9. It is a 9.6 base, of course with concealment mod, and I actually do believe we have Mikawa, I think, on this build as well. So a pretty good concealment, but when you're looking at these tabs, I prefer to have my strengths in survivability and artillery and even AA defense instead of maneuverability and concealment, and that is kind of where the strengths of these ships are. Now, of course, the guns can smack when RNG is on your side, but as you saw in the game, it's like every third salvo is just, it's all, every third salvo is your good one, and 2 out of 3 are all over the place. But let's go ahead and review the armor here. Like we mentioned, a massive 25 millimeter French nose there, which can easily be overmatched by most battleships. However, you do have a pretty protected citadel. It's pretty low to the water, and you have a little bit of a French turtle back there, kind of on the outer casemate armor there. So getting in close is definitely going to lend you some better advantages, of course with that concealment as well, but definitely in terms of being protected for that armor. For those that don't know, turtleback armor, mainly used by the Germans, but in certain Japanese ships as well as the French there, really protects your citadel because the closer you get, the steeper that angle becomes on that turtleback there. Now it actually does hurt you in terms of longer range plunging fire, but we'll do kind of I should do another armor video. It's been a while. But here we have the overview, one of my favorite kind of cinematic shots in this game, despite the French heavies kind of being some of the uglier cruisers of in this game. But full ahead barrage and big and flammable there, which means you have a 45-second fire instead of your standard 30 on cruisers, mainly because you are essentially a battleship, as you guys can see in the little about section there. This was like the predecessor of the Dunkirk class battleships. But here is our commander. And what not a better commander for Brest than Miss St. Louis for 2 obvious reasons there. Her main base trait does reduce your consumable time as well as your reload time. We switch beyond range there for Igniter in the second slot, or burn it down, and then of course we have Igniter in the second slot. And then Go All Out in the third slot. You could choose Velocious or one of the other perks, but I just think it's good to have that increased concealment for potential meme opportunity. There are definitely other commanders you can run, but the last perk here I think is probably the most beneficial, Bonjour. It increases enhanced main battery reload booster by 10%, as well as giving you a whole nother charge. So you have 4 with fully packed there as your legendary perk instead of 2 or 3 with fully packed. So 2 additional charges to the standard with this specific build is definitely going to be beneficial. But yes, we are running Mikawa, and then of course Bimbelli there for increased reload. Kind of a hodgepodge type build. I'm sure there's better builds out there. But again, I need to do a whole video on this. It is not the build that makes a ship. A ship is a ship. Now, of course, the builds can enhance a ship, even by a decent margin, but it's truly the builds. But there's the French heavy line. I'm going to be honest, I'm just disappointed with this line. I thought it was going to be a lot better. I think they could get a 5-second, reload nerf, or buff rather, as well as a slight accuracy buff, and these ships would still probably be underplayed. I think the problem with the balancing department right now is that Wargaming bases their assessment of ships off of the higher tier players, because new players are not playing these ships. So you're not getting accurate metrics towards the nerfs and buffs. But Wargaming does a decent job. I say decent and not superb, because there's still a lot of things that could be looked at in my opinion. But that was our first look. Let me know what you guys think of that. Let me know if the audio was better in this one. I tried to balance it out a little bit better. But anyway, love you guys. Aaron out. Peace.